Some unfortunate injury updates. Let's unpack it. Your latest Locked On Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things dog-pound, LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jeff Lloyd, and I appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. Become an everyday or join the everyday crowd. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Well, Greenbrier, West Virginia, first day of Browns training camp is in the books. Unfortunately, some, bad, and I guess we'll call it bad news, right? You got players missed in surgeries. Greg Newsome surgery last week. We'll talk about that segment too. Of course, Dalvin Tomlinson will get surgery on Friday and knee scope done. We'll get to all that. Try to, so excited because, everything's back and up to business. What is probably the main storyline of today? I didn't really think it's a storyline, but apparently some of you think it's a storyline. Kevin Stefanski announced that he is indeed still the play caller. So let's see. Since the day he took this team over in 2020, he has been the play caller from jump. So we bring in a new offensive coordinator, and everybody all of a sudden now assumes, after a team that was on fire as the 2023 regular season ended, with a quarterback that had been in town for a hot minute in Joe Flacco. And look, Joe played great, but do we seem to forget who was calling those plays? And do we seem to forget who was the play caller when DTR beat the Pittsburgh Steelers? Or when PJ Walker somehow miraculously found a way to beat the San Francisco 49ers? Or Deshaun Watson won a huge road game in Baltimore and was perfect in the second half? Who was the play caller for all those games? Oh, that's right, Kevin Stefanski. To me, I find it stunning that everybody just assumed because Ken Dorsey, because Ken Dorsey is now the offensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns, that Ken Dorsey was automatically going to be called the play caller. And all of a sudden, Kevin Stefanski was going to give up duties. Kevin Stefanski, yes, was a defensive back in his college days. He's been an offensive coach in his entire career, in his coaching career. So it seems stunning to me that all of a sudden he was going to give up the reins. And it's not a knock on Ken Dorsey by any means whatsoever. And there could be a time, certainly, where maybe Kevin Stefanski decides, you know what, maybe I'm better suited overlooking every aspect of this team. But you want to know what? Right now, I probably have a Hall of Fame defense coordinator in Jim Schwartz. So what is Coach Stefanski going to tell Jim Schwartz that Jim Schwartz doesn't already know? He's got a quality special teams coach, and we're about to enter a phase of special teams in the NFL that not necessarily anybody, but maybe special teams coaches are truly ready to grasp and get into. So it's not like Kevin Stefanski can scrap everything he's doing on the offensive side of the ball and just say, I'm going to devote myself to poking my nose out into special teams, which there's nothing to go back on. There's no film to watch. It's all going to be brand new. So all of a sudden now people just now assume that all of a sudden he was going to relinquish play calling duties. If you don't think Kevin Stefanski is a good play caller, that's on you. 100%, that is on you. And even if you were somewhat questionable about whether or not Kevin Stefanski was a good play caller going into last year, you need to know that he won games with Deshaun Watson. He won games with PJ Walker. He won games with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. He won games with Joe Flacco. He went to the playoffs, starting 5 different quarterbacks last year. So if you are questioning Kevin Stefanski as a play caller at this point, still, that, my friends, is on you. And also something to look at. Ken Dorsey is not this hot shot coach on the rise. And again, no disrespect to Coach Dorsey. I'm excited that Ken Dorsey is here. But it's not like he's this new, young hotshot. And for the Browns to get him here, they had to poach him from somebody else's staff. And maybe the competition factor between them and getting Ken Dorsey here was offering him play calling duties. The fact of the matter and the reality of the matter is Ken Dorsey was the Buffalo Bills play caller last year. Ken Dorsey was fired from his job as offense coordinator / play caller. It just wasn't working. Doesn't mean Ken Dorsey's a bad offense coordinator. Doesn't mean he's a bad play caller. Whatever was going on, and I do believe there was some influence above Ken Dorsey last year with the Buffalo Bills. And they were trying to, I don't want to say rein Josh Allen in, but I think they were trying to say, hey, maybe Josh Allen's playing at an unsustainable pace, and without Josh Allen, we stink. So let's just let Josh Allen go out there and be 100% of Josh Allen when we need him to, but let's try to curb it in a little bit. And I do believe some of that ended up falling on Ken Dorsey as the Bills had a couple of struggles. And it was because they were essentially just not letting Josh Allen be Josh Allen. Not necessarily all on Ken Dorsey. But to think that Ken Dorsey was going to come in after being fired, and that's the fact of the matter, he was fired as offense coordinator for the Buffalo Bills last year. So to think that he was going to come in and all of a sudden this is going to be the guy where Kevin Stefanski has not much of a relationship to this point. They have obviously been working together since February, whenever it was that Ken Dorsey was hired. So the fact of the matter that all of a sudden, with nothing to base it on, no games, certainly not a training camp, no preseason games, nothing. All of a sudden now that Kevin Stefanski, who, let's just be honest, probably enjoys play calling. That's why he still keeps continuing to do it. It's what he likes. And I've said before, and I know the everydayers know, there's times where I'm there and you kind of get this ebbs and flows. We're going right, going. And you just you kind of pick up the Kevin Stefanski vibe. And everybody, I always know what's coming. Well, you don't always know what's coming. And maybe you did when the Browns in 2022, 2021, and 2020 had an exceptional offensive line. And the Browns just said, keep feeding the hog and give him the ball to number 24. No crap. We all knew it was coming. Everybody knew what was coming then. But last year, when we got to see all these different quarterbacks play, we didn't know it was coming. You got to see, Jerome Ford, we knew he was a collegiate running back who was a high school wide receiver. Browns found a way to exploit that. And certainly it was Kevin Stefanski helped exploit that and make that a advantage and a strength for this team in the wake of losing a player as dominant as Nick Chubb. So I don't know what the shock and the awe is from some of you and the reaction, and some of them, it was much figured that Ken Dorsey was going to be the play caller. Why? He was fired from his job for calling plays and offense coordinator last year. It wasn't so much that they pulled him from calling plays. He was relieved of his position. Meanwhile, Kevin Stefanski, while calling plays, went out to the playoffs with the Cleveland Browns in 2024. So it is, for some people, I think it's a big story. For me, it's not a big story, but it's a big enough story to some people that it had to become the lead story. Now we're going to get to what I believe is the lead story. Browns getting some news on Greg Newsome and some news on Dalvin Tomlinson, which yesterday seemed like not a big deal, but today, big deal. I don't know, but it's a little bit more serious, I believe, than we all thought. Stick around. The latest Locked On Browns continues. After watching the New York Mets beat the daily pulp out of the New York Yankees for the fourth straight time in 2024, I got some interest to maybe making my way out to Citi Field this summer. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. They got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. I love the zone deals. You can save a bunch of money. You tell them what section you want to sit in. Let Game Time choose the seats. They're usually looking for the best value and best deal for you. You get a seat view. You get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Me, I want to see the field, but I know my wife wants to see all the sights around, so let's make sure we can get that in there too. Your Game Time ticket coverage purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service in the ticketing industry. Here's what we need to do. We need to take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Your latest Locked On Browns continues. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd. I appreciate all of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. If you have not become an everydayer yet, First day of training camp. Now is the time to do it. Subscribe to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcast. We mentioned Kevin Stefanski will be your play caller, continue to be your play caller. Again, much ado about nothing. But here is what the big news, in my opinion, is out of Cleveland Browns training camp today. Greg Newsome, yesterday, we had found out that he was on a non-football injury list. Well, Greg Newsome last week had surgery on his hamstring. Hamstrings are a pain. There's no question about it. One of the most, debilitating injuries. It's something that can just, harm you an entire season. There's been guys where it's harmed almost an entire career. So obviously not an ideal scenario. So Greg Newsome, the hope is he's back by the opener. I mean, it's not necessarily what you want to hear on June 25th is that the hope is that he's back by the opener. Certainly something to monitor because he's got to go through the rehab process. Then there's going to be the light jogging process. Then they're going to be trying to amp it up to 75%, then amping it up to 100%. Then there's cutting. Then there's getting into practice. So certainly a concern for me. Cameron Mitchell certainly would be the guy here you think is going to have a big opportunity. Browns envisioned him as, another possible nickel player. There was the thoughts of, if Greg Newsome was ever moved, if somebody came in with an offer the Browns could not refuse, Cameron Mitchell could be a guy that could step right in and play some nickel. Does open a role for the summer, which will probably, in my opinion, we're going to see some Cameron Mitchell, no doubt, be basically your starting nickel in the summer. But it's going to open up a nice little role, in my opinion, for 7th-round pick Myles Harden. Myles Harden, you guys know how I like my defensive backs, especially my cornerbacks. It rhymes with ick. Those are the type of guys I like. I want you mouthy. I want you physical. Even if you get beat, I want you to still run your mouth, and I want you to just be that guy. That is my flavor of defensive back. Myles Harden is all that and more. So I'm excited because I think this creates a big opportunity. And we talked about it. Browns have a lot of cornerbacks. We weren't sure how it was all going to work out. So again, these things sometimes have a way of working themselves out for themselves. Not saying, and we all know that, Greg Newsome's certainly not done for the year. And this is certainly a huge blow for Greg Newsome, who finally last season got into his comfort zone. It really all came together for Greg. I think he embraced playing on the inside. He certainly relished the opportunities he got when Denzel Ward wasn't available to play on the outside. But by far, Greg Newsome's best season as a pro. A lot of questions were about Greg Newsome. Was the physicality because of the missed time? Does the physicality cause the missed time? Greg Newsome was a pain in the butt last year and was very physical. Jet screens, wide runs. Greg Newsome did not shy away from contact. He created contact. He blew up a lot of plays, had one of the most important plays the entire 2023 season with that pick 6 in Baltimore that gave the Browns life and basically gave them the opportunity to go in there and pull off that big upset on the road in Baltimore. It's a tough blow. And I feel bad for Greg Newsome right now because it was really starting to come together. Greg Newsome has the 5th, going into year 4, has the 5th-round option picked up. All of the mental aspects, the worries, none of that was out. It was all off the table. Greg knew what was in front of him for the next 2 seasons. And now, whatever this was and whatever this led to, Greg Newsome is now here, July 25th, about to begin a major, I don't know if I was a major, but a big rehab process on one of the more difficult injuries an athlete can face. So Greg Newsome, we're thinking about you. We're going to miss you. Hopefully we can make it back soon. But as I say with all these guys, it is not about week 1. Get back, be 110% and be ready to go when you are ready to go. Dalvin Tomlinson. Now, Dalvin Tomlinson on the pup list yesterday. Hey, I thought I gave you a bunch of scenarios. Maybe it was just doing the big man a favor, realizing how important he is as the top dog in that defensive tackle room. But Dalvin Tomlinson is getting a knee scope tomorrow. For anybody who's not sure about a scope, arthroscopic surgery on the knee tomorrow for Dalvin Tomlinson. Now, this one's a little bit bigger than the cornerback position. There are other guys to jump in. And, look, the Browns have a top 3 at the cornerback position, right? Ward, Emerson, Newsome, all good. All really solid players. But as I mentioned yesterday when we talked about Dalvin Tomlinson, he was it. It was Dalvinson, was tier 1. Bunch of guys on tier 2. That's fine. But Dalvin was your dog. Dalvin was your top. Now, all of a sudden, you got a whole bunch of tier 2 guys. Now, the knee scope, And, again, the thought process and hope, and nobody's going to say anything other than that right now. They're going to say the hope is that he returns for the week one of the regular season. Certainly that is the hope. Now, where does this, I'm sorry, let me go with this first. Now, we all knew that Mike Hall was a targeted player for the Browns. We knew he was a player that the Browns coveted, brought him, met with him every possible way along the step. It wasn't just, hey, we're trying to meet with the kid who's not far from Cleveland. They had legit and total interest in acquiring Mike Hall. And so as much as we knew the Mike Hall pick was happening, it did, for me, kind of raise some eyebrows when the Browns went ahead in the 7th round and drafted yet another defensive tackle. And you say so with 7th round, you just went best player on the board. No, Juwon Briggs slid in the draft. Everybody believed that Juwon Briggs was a draftable prospect who was going to make an NFL roster. So all of a sudden, this Browns defensive tackle room, which had Tomlinson, brought back Shelby Harris, brought back Maurice Hurst, brought in Quentin Jefferson, already had Siaki Ika on the roster. You drafted Michael Hall, and you drafted Juwon Briggs. Now you had 7 possible rosterable players at the defensive tackle position. This opened up a huge opportunity for what could be the accelerated path for Mike Hall. Mike Hall would be the ideal starter to go with Tomlinson. So Mike, the opportunity is going to be there to be a playmaker. This certainly Siaki Ika, if it's not now, you're probably not going to get another spring and summer, because if he can't step up and seize an opportunity now, I'm not sure the Browns will keep him. I don't think they'll keep him on the 53. They release him. He finds a way to the practice squad. That's certainly a possibility. But for Siaki Ika, the time is now. You need to take, and this is maybe an opportunity that Siaki Ika wasn't even going to get. But now Dalvin Tomlinson, we knew most likely he probably wouldn't play preseason games, but he won't even be there at practice. And there's really only one other guy that can play, the nose. It has the size to do it, has the strength to do it. So Siaki Ika, the opportunity is yours. Certainly Juwon Briggs, the path to making the final 53 certainly got a little bit clearer. Certainly a great chance for Juwon Briggs to go in there and show out who he is as a 7th round pick. Another, Ohio-based player from the University of Cincinnati. So this is a tough blow. There's no question about it. There is a tough blow. It is a tough blow because Siaki Ika has proven he cannot be the guy on the interior to this point, that even close to what Dalvin Tomlinson is. It does create an opportunity for more reps for for Mike Hall, and certainly for Juwon Briggs. And, Shelby Harris probably will be a pitch counted summer. Quentin Jefferson is not a run stopper. Maurice Hurst, we got to see a little bit of everything from him last year. But this is not news, as I certainly wanted to hear. I'm certainly sure this is not news. The Browns, said with a Cheshire cat smile today that, 2 of their predominant defensive players. So when they have their best 11 on the field, Dalvin Tomlinson is one of them. Greg Newsome is one of them. That's not a good day for the Cleveland Browns. So it is what it is. I hope both guys, rehab quickly and get back quickly. But, a little bit of sour news in regards to Greg Newsome and Dalvin Tomlinson as day 1 of training camp is in the books. We'll continue here with some thoughts from practice. Here, the latest Locked On Browns continues. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your #1 ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Closing out your latest Locked On Browns, segment 3. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd. We appreciate everybody who makes the LOB their first listen every single day. The everyday crowd, you want to become an everydayer. They're a bunch of filthy animals, but they're my filthy animals. And the best way to become an everydayer is subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcast. You got to hear Denzel Ward talk today, and certainly Denzel, feeling for his cornerback brother and Greg Newsome, the bond between Denzel Ward, Martin Emerson, and Greg Newsome. And it was something that really started once Jim Schwartz got to town last year. And it was, I'm going to let you boys make plays. I want to rush the quarterback, which means I'm going to play a lot of man coverage, and I want you guys to go out there and do your thing. And when you do your thing, I want all the celebrations. I want everybody to get excited and really, really played in to the mindset of top cornerbacks. When your defensive coordinator says, I'm going to play man coverage because I want to beat the daylights out of the opposing quarterback, so I'm going to give you all the opportunity to make plays. Martin Emerson, 4 interceptions. G. New, certainly a pick 6. Denzel Ward, a bunch of plays last year as well. A ton of plays last year from Denzel Ward. That is a relationship that really, really started to grow last year between all those guys. Some guys started off to the side, but then did work their way into drills. Jerry Jeudy, there were some concerns. Certainly he missed towards the end of mandatory mini camp, but he was out there. Myles Garrett was out there getting into it. Deshaun Watson out there, and not much was said about what exactly the plan is and what is Deshaun's availability. The Browns are set to practice, so they practiced on Thursday. We'll practice Friday. They will practice Saturday. Sunday will be an off day. So we're not sure is, Deshaun 100 for all 3 of these days, and then is the rest day for the team. Is that enough for Deshaun? Does he need a little extra rest? Certainly something that's going to be monitored. We don't know the total severity of the injury. We don't know how the rehab process went as far as acceleration. Were they trying to have him 100 for this time of year, or was the smart goal, like I've been telling you all for months, is to not worry about training camp? It was to worry about the Dallas Cowboys on September 8th. So certainly, monitor. Jerome Ford not around today. A concern, not much said about it, maybe not feeling well. I think if it was something more serious, I'm assuming that is something we probably would have been, told a little bit more of. Certainly the tackles, we're going to have to wait until we can get our full offensive tackle, at least the top 3, into working every single day. DeJuan Jones got the opportunity to break down the huddle at the end of practice today and basically got up and kind of almost did like his version of the Chief Slam. I'm not sure if the ground in the Greenbrier in West Virginia is still shaking from DeJuan jumping up and down on it like he did. But you're really starting to get the oats here, and you're really starting to get fired up for the season. I mean, I can't contain myself. I kind of feel like I did like when I was 10 years old, and you wake up on Christmas morning, see what, Santa Claus, aka, well, I won't ruin it for your kids, but you all know where I'm going with this one. Parents left me under the tree. But you kind of get the knack and the feel, certainly, of where this is all headed. There's a lot of confidence in this team. Everybody speaks confidently. They all seem very excited about what the team can accomplish this year. I cannot wait to see the development of this wide receiver room. I think there's some really, really good players here. I think there's some guys who are really going to be able to, contribute. It's going to be a fight, and as much as these guys are close, it's really going to be a fight between each other, because it's great that we're tight and all, but, if it comes down to you getting reps or me getting reps or you getting targets, me getting targets, what I'm saying? I ain't so worried about our friendship anymore. I'm kind of worried more about me. That's where the wide receiver me mentality comes into play. But like I was saying earlier in segment 2, now this all of a sudden opens up, and the eyes are always on our rookies in training camp. It's just the way it kind of goes. But now the eyes maybe a little bit more, certainly, with the injury to, Dalvin Tomlinson. Mike Hall was going to be one of the most spotlighted players of all of training camp. That's not going to change. That is certainly going to probably even pick up even more. Certainly opens up the path where more eyes are going to be on Juwon Briggs. And of course, Myles Harden. And, like I told you, Myles Harden, a fun player. Like, it wasn't a guy like, there's not often where I'm, running through South Dakota tape. But once, we turned on the Myles Harden tape and we started to get into it a little bit more, you just really, really kind of like the player, like the aggressive style he played with, the aggressive, the cockiness, I'll be nice, the cockiness type of style that he played with. How is the rest of the things, going to work out? The safeties is Juan Thornhill, was the calf all the way behind him, because we saw where Juan was limited last year as far as being able to take that angle and, and becoming a safety who could blow up, running plays, 2 yards, 3 yards. He just didn't have the burst. I mean, he came back, but he just did not have the burst, the Juan Thornhill burst. Juan Thornhill was an elite athlete in the state of Virginia, ridiculously good basketball player, ridiculously good hops, fast. Juan Thornhill had it all, but you saw he was dinged and he was hurt last year, and was not the 100% Juan Thornhill. That the Browns, signed to a free agent contract. Doesn't mean he can't be this year, and it doesn't mean the expectation and the bar is set high for Juan Thornhill. But it's tough, when you get those, muscle injuries. You're good enough to go, but you're not necessarily good enough to be your best version of yourself. But with Juan, Grant Delpit, certainly McLeod, and then, of course, you have Hickman and Bell around, guys who played really, really serviceable reps for this team last year. Let's go. I am fired up. I cannot even begin to tell you people how fired up I am to get this Browns 2024 product on the road. I am Jeff Lloyd. As always, you all make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. I could not be more thankful. It had been a rocky offseason, as you guys all know. All the turmoil I went through with my wife, it did take a little bbit of a toll on me, where I had to focus and kind of make sure that I was right and had myself in the right frame of mind. There's been a lot that's gone on for me and my family over the past 5, 6, 7 years, and it all kind of took its toll. And when you hear things like that, you hear that your significant other is sick, and they are sick with that terrible C freaking word, and that word can off. That is stuff it's tough. It really, really is. And I thought I was fine with it, and I thought I was dealing with it, and I just realized that the last few years taking a toll on me, but we are good to go. I'm excited to go. Make sure, as always, you subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on ELOB. Let's go Browns.